In other news, some people tried to stop a horse race on the basis that it was cruel to animals, but none of the animals suffered at all, including the 2 that were put down. The dead don't feel no pain. And there's a big difference between those Brits who would like to see Harry and Meghan at the King's sparkly hat dance and those who don't. It's an age thing. Can you guess what it is?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
So, hello.
You know, some whack job can say this stuff and get away with it?
His fans have been sending him money. Yeah, I bet they have. He don't need your money.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
The dinglings who are living in mobile homes, they're selling their pickup trucks, but not selling their guns, and they're sending the Donald money. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. From last night, texts and tweets. Heidi says, Hunt's voice, as in Jeremy Hunt's voice, sends shivers down my spine. How do you unbrainwash these people? Honestly, it's sad to see our nation in such a self-made mess. It's not his voice that sends shivers down my spine, it's his face. He seems to have had his eyelids removed. What's that about? And his face is so tight. It looks like it's so tight you can barely speak. John says, what if somebody gets so upset when they hear the alarm bell?
Warning, warning.
Your phone is about to get an alarm on the 23rd, something like that. I don't know. You'll hear it when it goes off. When your phone goes off, you will hear it. No doubt it. And the message will be something like,
Emergency, everybody to get from street. Emergency, everybody to get from street.
John says, what if somebody gets so upset when they hear that noise that they have an accident? Mark says, regarding the phone alert, I have an old Nokia, which I believe the kids call a burner phone. Well, the kids on The Wire call it a burner phone. Is that the same kids, kids who go to like public schools and they call their a Nokia a burner phone and they call the police the feds? Anyway, he says, I have an old Nokia phone, which I believe the kids call a burner phone. I presume nothing will happen to it. As in, the message will not come through.
Warning, warning.
You ain't going to get no message. He says, this makes me believe there will be a group of us whose first knowledge of World War III happening will be my curtains vaporizing in silence just before the blast hits. Well, that sounds like the Terminator.
Affirmative.
He says, I think I prefer that to 4 minutes of blind panic. Yes, me too. Exactly, yeah. What are we going to do with that extra information? Okay, missiles are incoming. Vladimir Putin just can't take it anymore. And he thinks that if he wipes out the entire country, then he's eventually going to get Boris too.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bodge. See what you've done. Put us all in the crosshairs, you idiot. And, what are we going to do with that information? This is your government speaking. You've got 4 minutes to live. Just grab hold of the nearest person and give them a great big kiss. Mwah! Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you care. Tell them that you'll be there for about 3 minutes. He says, Mark says, the groups of people who will not hear the warning are Luddites, old people, and drug dealers.
Want to score some pot?
Well, that's just a fact. We can do without all of those. Peter says, what happens if you're talking on the phone when the alarm goes off at 3 p.m. on the 23rd? Does it blare out in your ear? Well, that's a good point. Because Daniel, the previous host, a legal expert, his in tray is going to be huge. People are going to have permanent ringing in their ears. They're on the phone at whenever it is on the date that I can't remember right now. When is it?
23rd.
23rd. Don't speak to me like that. Callum says, wonder how many people will get tickets from the police after trying to stop the alarm while driving. That's right. Does it just go off and off and off and off until you do something about your phone? Or does it just ping once? I'm keen to find out now. What do you mean, yes?
It does go off and off and off.
Right, so, well, that's alarming. What if I'm doing something important? Message coming in from next door. You have to turn it off. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to turn it off if I'm driving, and then I'm going to be arrested by the law for fiddling about with my phone while I'm in charge of a car. It says you only have to tap the screen. Well, that's against the law. That's touching your phone. They've got laws about that. Another message. Oh, my God. Would it ever end? Law schmore, he says. Wow. Guilty. It's 100 hours of unpaid work for you, my son. Ryan says, it's my birthday on the 23rd. Nobody cares. He says, can you sing Happy Birthday to the tune of the national anthem? Or the national alarm? Not the national anthem, the national alarm. God, I mean, can you imagine if this came through your phone? They should use this. People they'd stop anything just to bash their phone, just to make this stop. Oh my God, I can't stand it anymore. I mean, if you were sitting in a cinema and that came on, you would stand up to run out. That's what used to happen. I mean, those of an older persuasion do remember being in the cinema, and kids aren't going to believe this. First of all, that there used to be a thing called cinemas. Yeah, people used to go and sit next to each other for like two hours.
Disgusting.
Yeah, breathing the same air. Can you believe that? Breathing the same air when at least half the cinema was smoking. There used to be a small area of the cinema which was the no smoking area, you know, as though smoke would obey the line on the floor. God, that's stuff that used to happen. Anyway, there used to be this beautiful song, that used to pop up at the end of the film, the end of the feature film. And people used to have, if you got caught, if you forgot that it was coming and didn't surge to the exit like everybody else, then you had to stand up. Otherwise, very disrespectful to Her Majesty, who no doubt would get a report that you just saw Live and Let Die and you didn't stand up at the end of it. Who the hell do you think you are? Paul texts, when the Minister for the Environment, Therese Coffin, is next interviewed, she should be asked if she went skinny dipping in UK waters during Easter break. Oh, what an awful thought. Now I feel like I need my brain washed. Rebecca says, if you think that siren is bad, you really should hear the Australian emergency warning siren. The Australian sound really is scary, so much so that people I know, myself included, who heard it for real 40 plus years ago, are still freaked out by the sound of it today. Well, now I'm keen to find out. What does it sound like? I bet my glamorous assistant is on the case straight away. The Australian emergency warning siren. I bet it's on YouTube. And Paul no. Paul does not sext anything. He texts. Biden just asked Sunak what he wanted to be when he grew up before handing him a lollipop and ruffling his hair. Yeah, Biden said, don't stand up. Oh, no, you already have. Right. Ahmed emails, your favourite MP, Rees Mogg.
I don't know anything.
Described the junior doctor strike as irresponsible. Can you please describe this wonderful MP of ours in one word, please, Nick? Keep it clean. I can't, Ahmed. If you only want the one word, then I can't keep it clean. How about expert?
We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away by getting rid of the protectionist anti-trade tariffs that the EU imposes. And it would be very good for the British people, and it would provide certainty. And I think once there's certainty, the country will begin to reunite.
That guy's an MP. Can you believe that?
No.
People voted for him. He doesn't know anything.
I don't know anything.
Tom emails, I remembered what you said, so I promptly filled my postal vote in card thing request. Unfortunately, I managed to put down my own address in the little window, so I just got it. I remember what you said, so I properly filled in my postal vote. Unfortunately, I managed to put my own address in the little window, so I just got it sent back to me. Better luck next year, says Tom. I'm going to remind you every day I'm on. You must register for a postal vote. When is it? When's the postal vote registration date?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's Tuesday, something like that. It's coming up very, 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 very soon. Or you've got until, I think it's the 25th, to register and get one of them photo IDs. It is the intention of this government to try to prevent as many young people from voting as possible. There is no other way of looking at what it is that they are proposing. If there are two identical bus passes, and one is aimed at the over 65s and one is aimed at 18-year-olds, and the over 65 is okay to vote with and the 18-year-olds isn't, what other conclusion can you draw? Why? Why the difference? Look down the list of the IDs that they will accept to vote, and practically every single one of them is aimed at older people. Older people, of course, vote Conservative. Younger people tend not to. And there's a big difference between the old and the young on pretty much every issue you'd care to mention. Old people, eh? And I'll come back to that in a while because it's like hot royal news. Just going through texts and tweets. Okay, message from next door. Very verbose today. Just on and on and on. He says, postal vote deadline is 5 p.m. Wednesday. Did you get that? 5 p.m. this Wednesday. As in, do it straight away. Don't put it off because you'll forget. And then when the vote day comes around, you won't have your voter ID, and then their little scheme will have worked. Don't let them get away with it. Texts and tweets from last night. Terry says, have you seen that Wheezing Coffin's new nickname on Twitter? Is Nelly the Effluent. Oh, that is a good one. I'm going to remember that. Wheezing Coffin's new nickname on Twitter is Nelly the Effluent. And I've got a hot, dirty brown water news as well. So much stuff to get through. And barely enough time to do it. What time does this show start? Can't wait to get going. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbot. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
0345 6060 973. Sam Batch. Hello, John.
Hi, it's quite clearly obvious that when they brought this in, it was a direct copy of the racist American states, Republican states, and the Trump supporters in America. I mean,
you're talking about the voter fraud, the way to solve a problem that doesn't exist by preventing young people from voting. That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only race isn't part of it, but it's age and class.
Well, the only reason that race is a part of it is because the non-white people tend to vote Democrat more often than Republican, although, in some areas that isn't necessarily the case. But it's basically to suppress the ability of Democrats in America to vote for their party of choice. And similarly, in this country, the Conservatives are following the Republicans' lead on pretty much everything.
And in this country, it's to make sure that the black people who usually vote Labour...
No, it's young people. It's not black people.
And young people.
It's not and young people. It's just young people. What's black people got to do with it?
Well, they don't. I mean, they can be young and black, but
they could be young, gifted, and black.
Rock and roll. Yeah. Yeah. You got me going now. But I mean,
I suppose you have a point.
Thing,
I guess so. Yeah,
it's
really,
all the same
thing.
It's really a nasty.
Well, if they can't win by ordinary means, then they're going to win by underhand means. They do have a knack of winning, and nobody cares how they won. They just look at the score sheet at the end. It's like a football match.
Yeah.
If one team hacks the other team to bits, and several of them get sent off, and every single one of them get carded, then they might have won it by unfair means, but the only thing that anybody's going to remember is they won.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And it's the actions of a desperate
desperados.
Government.
Yeah.
They are
All right,
desperate,
keep your eyes
all right.
peeled, John, and don't let them get away with it. Thanks a lot, mate. This is the Financial Times. The analysis of a report on whether contentious Tory reforms to electoral laws have stopped people from voting will not emerge for several weeks. Or ever, in fact, I bet you. I bet that report never sees the light of day. Has anybody seen the Russia report yet?
No.
No, of course not. Have you seen the Russia report yet, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Not commenting on that. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, is he in jail yet? The Financial Times says the change causing concern is the new requirement that voters offer photo ID before they can vote in person. May's elections are the first major test of its impact. Given Boris Johnson's record of contempt for Given Boris Johnson's record of contempt for constitutional conventions, well, you try saying that. And the reluctance of parties to legislate to damage their interests, such worries are not entirely irrational. It's already the practice in Northern Ireland. And turnout dropped by 2.3% when it was first introduced. And that doesn't sound like very much, but it could be essential for the Conservatives to win. The way that Johnson drove through the change did little to dispel doubts, says the Financial Times, especially among those who saw parallels with voter suppression techniques of Republican populists in the US. Dreadful, dreadful people.
Don't be rude.
Ministers rejected advice from the Electoral Commission that this May was too soon. They rejected advice from the Electoral Commission. Now, that's very, I don't know, naive of the Electoral Commission to give them advice that it might be too soon. They're not remotely interested whether it's too soon or not. They just care whether it works. More troubling, says the FT, is that the government's list of acceptable ID beyond the obvious passport and driving licence seems strikingly skewed against younger voters who are less likely to vote Conservative. An over 60 Oyster travel card is valid, an over 18 one is not. When peers, led by a former Tory minister, voted to broaden the list of accepted IDs, the government overturned the move. Gosh, I wonder why they would do that. Does that sound like integrity to you?
This government will have integrity. At every level.
And if you believe that, I have a genuine made-in-China Rolex watch I'd like to sell you. Another problem is the lack of reliable data. The government puts the number of voters without accepted ID as low as 925,000. The Electoral Reform Society believes it's 2 million. A free government ID is available to those lacking the accepted proofs of identity, but so far, pay attention, 55,000 have applied. There could be 2 million people without ID. 55,000 have applied. It seems to be working perfectly. I'll say that again. There's 2 million people without photo ID in this country who can vote. 55,000 have applied for voter ID. It says beyond this is the question of people who forget to bring proof when they vote. Yeah, there'll be a lot of that. One estimate suggests that 20% of the public do not routinely carry a photo ID. And at least 10% of those will forget on the day. And once they arrive there and find that they haven't got what they need, are they going to come back? They're going to go home, all the way home, and then come back again? No. It's going to be hard enough to get them out in the first place. The Commission says the groups most at risk of disenfranchisement include certain minority communities, those in rented accommodation and the over 85s. Only the last group, the over 85s, which leans heavily conservative, will worry ministers, says the FT. I mean, it's just so blatant. They're not even trying very hard to cover this up. It's not the only reform, says the FT. The Tories have also legislated to weaken the independence of the Electoral Commission. Gosh, I wonder why they've done that. And to change the voting system for directly elected mayors. The electoral system for mayors, under which voters were allowed to designate a second preference if their first choice was eliminated, had previously enjoyed cross-party support. But guess what happened under that system? Tories didn't win enough. So, without a compelling reason for change, the system is being scrapped in favour of first past the post, the model that's used for the general elections. This is disadvantageous to smaller parties and helps the Conservatives as the left and the Liberal vote is split. Wow. This is Britain. I'm not talking about China or some tin pot African dictatorship. This is Britain. The official reason for this change is simplification and familiarity with a trusted system. Right. The real motive is a self-interested desire to push back the cause of electoral reform, says the Financial Times. Good grief. Tell us about your integrity again.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
Every level. Yeah. That's as believable as anything else you've ever said. God, I can't believe what's happening in this country. Hampshire, Tom.
Can you hear me, Nick?
No.
You better know. Yeah, what I want to say, Nick, to you is that this country, all the people are in a nightmare and heading for nowhere. It's reference to water. I don't know if you're following the procedure of it, but the problem with the water is the groundwater has to be separated from sewerage.
Yes.
And if you think about the full layout of groundwater, it is basically the 100 years that the public have paid for the original sewerage system, again, for the groundwater. And now, don't forget, when the privatisation went through, it's even on the Hansard minutes in the House of Parliament, the privatisation was to eliminate the public from having to pay for assets, for investment.
Yeah,
So
it was supposed
that-
to provide competition in the market, which of course it didn't. It just gifted companies, private companies, monopolies. And they acted like every controller of a monopoly. They just lavished themselves with delicious money.
We know about that, but what I'm saying is that people already should know that they should not be paying for assets that the companies are accruing. Because I don't know if you realise as well, you know, that a short while ago I heard a little comment from the Parliament saying that the water companies had said or asked that if they can increase their asset base, can they increase their profit?
What assets are you talking about?
The all investment for the system, the pipes under the water and under the ground and everywhere, is all them assets.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we should handle it, Nick, is
with gloves on, I would imagine.
Like
a hazmat suit would be good.
The company bought they didn't buy the company. Don't forget, some of these water companies got the assets for free.
They all got their assets for free, and we took their debt, the debt that was that the individual companies had laden upon them. We bought that off them as well. We gifted them the companies for free, and then we gave them some cash on top, not like a vast amount of cash on top, and they were debt free. When the Conservative Party doled out our water. We're the only country on earth that has ever given away our own water. That's how stupid we are. And what those companies did was they laden themselves with debt, borrowed a vast amount of money from banks and institutions, and just gave that money to themselves as bonuses for excellence in being them.
and we paid that money back from the banks, you know.
No, we haven't paid it back at all. We're paying the interest, is what we're paying.
No, we're not only paying the interest, you know, we're paying the capital as well, you know.
No, we haven't paid the capital off. They're absolutely laden with debt, those companies. They're not paying the capital off at all. And now they're going to ask us to pay for cleaning up their mess. Well, actually, our mess. I suppose technically it is our mess. Oh. Anyway, Tom, excellent work. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet @LBC. Text 84850.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again.
Yeah, it's a radio show, dear. Britons have been warned by a Thames Water executive not to flush their toilets after having a wee to conserve the country's water supply.
Disgusting.
The water firm's Strategy and Regulatory Affairs Director, Catherine Ross, has also implored people to cut down the length of their showers to save water. Cut down the length of my shower? I barely stand under there long enough to get wet. Thames Water wants you to save water because it seems to be having a hard time of doing that. Thames Water wastes the same amount of water as leaving a hosepipe on every single day for more than 73 years. Trade union GMB claimed that. The union said that Thames Water's creaking infrastructure loses, get ready, 635 million litres in leaks every single day. 635 million litres a day. It's just like every other water company in the land, spraying hot sewage into rivers while leaking fresh water into the ground and charging us poor dopes who pay taxes for the pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Water companies regulator Ofwat have set companies targets to cut water consumption per person by a fifth by 2038. Most failed to meet these targets last year. Problem is, not that people are having showers for too long. The problem is that water companies have taken our money and given it to themselves as bonuses for doing a great job, while the monopolies that they were gifted by the Tories crumble and are loaded with ever more debts to flood their shareholders with cash. What a racket. If this was happening in France, the water would be on fire. The firm's Strategy and Regulatory Affairs Director, Catherine Ross, said that levels of water use in the UK were unsustainable looking into the long term. She said that the most important way to reduce water consumption on a day-to-day basis is shorter showers and not flushing the loo every time. Meanwhile, her own company, Remember, is losing 635 million litres of water per day. And by the way, Ofwat is the regulator. You know, the people that are supposed to be overseeing the water industry for the benefit of the public. How are they doing, by the way?
Fabulous.
And the former Ofwat's chief executive just happens to be the very same Catherine Ross who is now a director of Thames Water.
What?
Small world. In other news, last month, Thames Water was told by the Environment Agency it needs to do more to fix the 630 million litres of water it leaks a day before it starts taking water from the River Thames or from Wales to tackle drought problems. See, if I was in Wales and somebody from Thames Water came knocking at my door wanting some of my water, I'd ask them what they're going to do with it. And they say, we're just going to pour it away. Is that okay with you? Also last month, Thames Water was urged to stop dumping sewage in the river in London. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. 48 hours of raw sewage was dumped in at least 3 residential areas across the Thames, Vauxhall, Blackfriars and North Woolwich. That's this last month. In January, Thames Water continued to release untreated sewage into the Thames, Windrush and Evanlode rivers, with repeated discharges in just weeks from sewage works in Oxford and Witney, among others. Also in January, Thames Water was discharging raw sewage for 18 consecutive days in some areas of the country. Now, did it rain for 18 consecutive days?
No.
No, I don't believe it did. So why were they allowing hot sewage to pour here, there and everywhere, baby? You know, almost all of our waterways are polluted. Almost all of them. A House of Commons committee report on the state of UK rivers concluded that no river in England at all was free from chemical contamination. Only 14% of UK rivers had good ecological status, and good is not as good as it gets. There's excellent, so good is meh, it's okay. Both agricultural runoff and the release of untreated sewage are leading causes of river pollution in the UK. But not everywhere. In 2021, untreated sewage was discharged into English waterways for more than 2.5 million hours. I wouldn't have guessed that there are 2.5 million hours in a year. How do they manage that? And the discharge of sewage happened for several different reasons. A lack of investment in dated infrastructure means the capacity of many sewage pipes is regularly exceeded. So to avoid sewage backing up and flooding your house, they just spew it any old place. The situation has not been helped by disruption to wastewater treatment chemical supplies following Brexit.
Oh, no.
That's right, I said it. Can't get the chemical supplies. The Environment Agency responded to these shortages by introducing temporary waivers last year, allowing water companies to release not fully treated sewage into the environment. They just let them do it. Raw sewage can affect human health. Yeah, that's why we feel disgusted by it. It's a defense mechanism. Not only does it contain harmful bacteria and viruses, sewage discharge floods rivers with nutrients that aid the development of algal blooms. These blooms prevent light from reaching deeper layers of water, so do not allow some plants to photosynthesize. They can even reduce the oxygen content of water, which worsens habitat quality. I'm getting all this from a publication called The Conversation, by the way. Within Europe, the UK's polluted waterways are largely an anomaly. Now, you might think that, well, if it happens here, it probably happens everywhere. No, wrong, incorrect. Just here. Many other countries have reported significant improvements in bathing water quality in recent decades. Indeed, bathing is now possible in some capital cities, including but not limited to Amsterdam, Berlin, Copenhagen and Vienna. Wherever they are. Between 1991 and 2019, the percentage of European bathing waters with excellent water quality increased from 53% to 85%. In several countries, including Austria, Greece and Malta, more than 95% of bathing sites are now classified as excellent. 95% excellent water quality. The best we can do is 14% good water quality. That's us, that is. Swimming in sewage. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in Ipswich. Emma.
Hello, my darling.
Emma.
How are you, gorgeous chap?
I am great, mate.
I know you are. You're bloody fabulous. I'm the one that reported the spying from Tom Swarbrick and using your doofies, darling. Your little soundboard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I now have to tell you that your glamorous assistant, although I really do like him, he sounds lovely, he's actually going to bring down the country.
In what way?
Postal, the doofies for like the deadline, can't even think of my words.
Yeah.
April the 18th. 5 p.m. It's not the 19th.
April the 18th. Oh, right. He's in on their little scheme.
Oh, his little scheme.
Yeah.
And you see, I did try to double check, thinking it might just be us out in the country.
Yeah.
But, I have double checked. And do you know also why I definitely knew that day? Guess.
It's your birthday.
Thank you so much for
that. All right. Thanks, Emma. Cheers, my dear. So there it is, the new information we have just in. It's like the 18th or something. Don't wait till the last moment. I know that you will, but don't do that. Do it today. You could do it right now. It's probably so easy you could do it while you're listening to this. Or you could just turn the radio off entirely and listen to this back on the podcast. We take this show and we stick it up the internet as a podcast. You know, we take the news and most of the ads out, mostly, and it takes less time to listen to. Now, it's only on Global Player. If you've got a Global Player, then you're just fine and dandy. If you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, then the magic phrase is play Nick Abbott the whole show podcast. You have to say it like that. Otherwise, that stupid smart speaker won't have any idea what you're talking about. Play Nick Abbott the whole show podcast. It's only on Global Player. We take the news and the ads out, most of the ads, and by that method it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and with the money you save, you'll be able to give it to Thames Water. And they'll throw it away. 0345 6060 973. Tooting. Adola. A dollar.
Oh, right. Well, it's cosmopolitan Britain, so you can say it like that. Anyway, first of all, I salute you. I am a former psychiatrist. I've heard on the radio that you was a former psychiatrist also.
You're a former psychiatrist?
Yes.
Why?
A psychiatric nurse.
Oh, okay. So not a psychiatrist.
Never quite got consultant status.
Okay.
I'll save that for another program.
So you're in remission?
In remission.
You're an not quite psychiatrist.
In Ready Player One, I'm in reverse. I found my free keys. No pun intended. I had something to do with Bill Gates' Windows, and he did very much look like the star character at the end. Anyway, my point is this. I seriously believe, I know it sounds kooky,
yes,
that I feel that I am a telepath.
You're a what?
Yes, believe it or not. But
hang on a minute. What is a telepath?
A telepath is someone that can telecommunicate with people without speaking.
Right. Could you attempt that now? 0345 6060 973. I'm hearing something? No, just gas. You can text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk. What's that? No, nothing. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Absolutely no idea. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Aberdeen. Mark.
Hi, I can't believe I'm speaking to the great Nick Abbott.
Hello, Mark.
Pleasure to be on your show. Hi. Calling from Aberdeen, we have no need to buy bottled water to drink in this country because we have the sweetest, purest and cleanest water that comes out of the taps. 67% of Scottish waterways are graded as good to excellent. And I would submit that the reason for this is that Scottish water is still a publicly owned and publicly funded body, unlike south of the border.
I would submit that you are completely correct in every respect.
Thank you very much. I pay £35 a year. It comes as part of my council tax, the water charge.
£35 a year? That doesn't sound like very much. What, for water and sewerage?
Everything that Scottish Water do.
Right.
And it's covered by that £35 a year charge. I did a bit of looking up on the internet while I was waiting to speak to you to find out how this situation arose. It was 1994 when John Major was the Prime Minister. Water had already been privatised in England. They wanted to do the same in Scotland. Strathclyde Council, as it was at the time, held a referendum as to whether they wanted to do it. 94% of the people said absolutely no chance at all.
I would imagine so.
They took the decision then that the whole country, there was no desire for it to be privatised. So what they did was they had three water companies at the time. They merged them into one and made it into Scottish Water.
Yes. And
I also looked through a bit of the Scottish Water annual report. In the next 5 years, they are proposing investing £485 million in infrastructure projects.
Well, they pull in about £1 billion a year. That's what their revenue is. It's about £1 billion a year. And if they had sold the Scottish Water to whoever wants to buy it, then that billion could have gone, Mark, to, let's say, I don't know, the Saudi Arabian Wealth Fund, and it could have been making the Saudi princes even more spectacularly rich than they are already. So you really missed a trick there, Mark.
Shareholder value, I believe, is what they call it. And chief executives, part of their remuneration package now is increasing shareholder value. Yeah. It's an awful phrase.
Those Saudi Arabians, they can't afford Lamborghinis just because because they didn't get all that delicious money from Scottish Water. Very, very ungenerous of you. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. It is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what kind of a stupid country would sell off its water? I mean, just imagine that. If they could sell the air that we breathe, they would have done that already. They sold off our oil. The Norwegians didn't. How is Norway doing? Really well. They own almost everything in this country that the Qataris don't. They used their money. They kept it for the people. We just threw it away. I didn't get any, did you? Colnbrook. Hello, Nick.
Hi, mate. Let me take your speakerphone. Just give me 1 second for you. Hi, Nick. Can you help me, please? I had my own words echoed back at me today from when I was 18 by my daughter-in-law today. I said, for goodness sakes, don't forget to vote when it comes up. And she said, as Emily Pankhurst would have turned in her grave, when she said, but you don't have to vote, and what's the point? They only lie anyway.
Oh my
now,
God.
What can I tell her that I didn't get put into my head when I was 18? I'm 62 now.
It's really, really annoying. You just got to, of course, you can't slap them anymore. So you can't slap sense into them anymore. That's not allowed. So you're going to have to persuade them that it is in their interest, that the only reason that kids keep getting screwed over is that they answer the question, are you going to vote, with that answer. No, they're all the same. I can't be bothered. Nothing ever changes. The reason that nothing ever changes is because people like that don't vote.
It's when they turn around and say, but they only lie anyway. And you go, but they do only lie. Yeah. You go from there.
Well, that's right. But you have to pick one. The perfect candidate is not going to come along. So you have to pick the least bad option. Just do it.
Isn't it annoying? You'll probably find that the one that is actually some good is in the party that you don't want, and the ones that you don't want are in the party that you wanted.
Right. So
and you're stumped.
So, well, no, you're not. No, you're not.
On the wrong side.
No, don't vote for the person if you think that person is going to be, good for the local area, because they're not going to be concentrating on the local area. They'll be up at Westminster sucking up their expenses. So, put that out of your mind. That's not going to help. It's the party that's going to help. Now, I know that our system is predicated on us voting for our local MP, but who sees their local MP? I mean, how many people where Smug is supposed to be representing have actually seen him?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Or how about Boris Johnson? How many people in Uxbridge have actually seen Boris Johnson down their way?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Exactly. So vote for the party, not the person.
Boris risks being facing the people of his area. He would get slapped. He'd have some security gathered around him just to make sure he could answer.
Well, that's right. From now until the end of his life, we'll be paying for that. Yeah, we'll be paying for his security, whether we like it or not. Well, he didn't pay for anything himself, so someone's got to. All right, thanks a lot, Nick. Just tell her to do it. Stop whining and get on with it. Oh, but Dad... It's dad-in-law as well. That's worse. Daryl says, those pesky Vigo terrorists are at it again. I'll talk about that maybe the next hour, so I'll hold that one over. Cytex, it's good to hear you've got your voice back, but I miss your Barry White tribute act. Hey, baby. Want to make sweet love.
Disgusting.
I listened to the best of Barry White relatively recently, and it's just the first song comes on and you think, oh, yeah, this one. And then the second one comes on and you think, oh, yeah, this one. And you keep saying that for about 13 songs in a row. It's amazing how many Barry White songs were massive hits. Bodmin. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello, Nick.
Malcolm.
Nick, 3 stories which are big in the news at the moment.
Yeah.
Smart motorways, the Grand National, and voter ID.
Right. I've done voter ID. I'm going to do the Grand National. I don't have anything on smart motorways.
Well, smart motorways, Rishi Sunak has announced, it's in the papers today, Rishi Sunak has said no future smart motorways. Well, the thing is, Nick, no one has died on a future smart motorway. And up to a few months back, 38 people,
Yes.
and Nick Ferrari was big on this, fair play to him. No person had died on a future smart motorway, but 38 have died on the ones that exist. I went up, Nick, to Manchester a year ago last August to get something, and I did the tour of Old Trafford. And obviously the M6 is a smart motorway, and there were no hard shoulders. And I tell you, it is bloody scary. Definitely
Yeah, you
scary.
definitely don't want to break down. No, that's right.
And the thing is, Nick, the government will say, mark my words, yes, but they are existing smart motorways now. A lot of infrastructure has gone into them, and it's very hard to reverse them.
Yeah.
And
most of the infrastructure that's gone into them, by the way, is to catch you speeding.
Well, the infrastructure is meant to be a lay-by every half a mile or something of that
Yeah,
nature.
so if your car is going to blow up, make sure that it blows up in the right place. Plan ahead.
But there's a simple fix, Nick, and it's what always defined a hard shoulder, and it's simply a solid white line.
Yeah.
So a lorry can drive up the hard shoulder with the white line strip making a bit of kit on the right-hand side in the hard shoulder, and they can easily produce a white line. And then all the gantries over the motorway on the inside lane, you simply put, this is now
Yeah,
a
just
hard
put a red
shoulder.
X, exactly.
Well, no, a red X, Nick, it means that you're not
All right,
allowed
well,
in
whatever.
that lane.
Yeah, just say...
Well, no, you simply put, this is a hard shoulder.
Right, well, you find that hard to actually write on that sign. I think you've got the option of a tick or a number or a red X. But don't make no never mind. I get it. Just paint a white line there and we'll carry on as before. I know that's not as much time as you wanted there, Malcolm, but I'm sorry. It's it's run away from me. Doesn't time fly when you're out of your mind? 0345 6060 973. On that subject, by the way, Adrian emails, so Fishy said he's stopping the building of smart motorways. Who commissioned these so-called smart motorways anyway? More dumb motorways. How could removing the hard shoulder ever have been smart? Yeah, it's a twisting of the language. Smart motorways. There's nothing smart about them. Stupid motorways they are. Ridiculous idea.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
He is a very sick and dangerous.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super, thanks for asking. The Grand National was delayed today after hippies dressed as normal people attempted to stop His Majesty's horse betting fun. Bet nah, bet nah, bet nah, bet nah. Animal rights protesters dressed as racegoers broke onto the course and attempted to attach themselves to jumps in an effort to prevent the race from taking place. Meanwhile, others had tried to break in using ladders, which is a pretty hard thing to disguise when apprehended by the law. Oh, this? No, officer, I always carry a ladder like this when I'm out. You never know when you might need a lift. Activists from Animal Rising, an environmental and animal rights group, were seen attempting to climb over fences and break onto the grass ahead of the race, only for them to be carted off by the police to the delight of spectators. Hooray, they said. Let the horsing commence. At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, people wielding ladders could be seen attempting to enter the course, while in a separate attempt, some tried to glue or lock themselves to jumps on the track. What is it with these people and glue? Police officers were seen rushing to the scene to grab the protesters and remove them. see pictures of some of them being removed horizontally. Activists were protesting against the horse racing over animal welfare concerns. Welfare concerns? How woke is that? There's no welfare concerns with the horses. They jog around a bit, have a jolly time, then they go home to their goats. In other news, three horses had to be killed because they were in so much pain and it would prove too expensive to treat an animal that's only worth spending money on if it's going to be able to race. Some horses get so badly injured that it wouldn't be possible to treat them at all, and so they kill them for that reason. But they don't call it killing, they call it putting down, because that sounds better, but it's still killing. Many of the racegoers didn't notice the disruption. I wonder why. Booze. One said the delay didn't affect us. We just got another drink in. We had an unbelievable day here. It was unbelievable. Only 3 dead horses. A great day all round. Sarah McCaffrey, a shop worker and student and one of those disrupting the track, said, whether it's for food or for fun, or our use of animals and nature is symbolic of a relationship beyond broken. What is wrong with my mouth? It's beyond broken. She said, we're a nation of animal lovers, but the pain these beautiful creatures experience daily does not do that label justice. And I would question that. We're a nation of animal lovers? I don't think so. I don't think we love animals at all. I mean, we fetishise some dogs and some cats, but that's about it. I mean, a large number of pet owners do nothing for their animals but imprison them and use them for their own gratification and amusement. I mean, that's not loving animals, it's loving themselves. Previously, the police announced that they would robustly defend the races in its main event from the militant vegans and animal rights campaigners. Militant vegans. Well, that's the wrong one. It's supposed to be this one. I've said this before. I must take Groovy and Goofy apart because they just look the same. Anyway, you know me, I never complain.
Stop whining.
Militant vegans. The police announced that they would robustly defend the races. I mean, it's alarming that the police are now using the word robust. I thought that was the Lizbots thing.
Absolutely.
You know, that and being very clear about everything.
I'm genuinely unclear.
So the last time I looked, 3 horses had died so far during the Grand National Festival. It's a festival of pain and death. If you are the thing being whipped to go faster. It's a festival of getting drunk and losing your wages if you're a punter in the stands. Dark Raven was destroyed following the 3rd race on Saturday after suffering injuries in what's described as an horrific fall, becoming the 2nd horse, 3rd in all, to die this year at Aintree after Envoy Special on Thursday. But, you know, horrific falls are just part of the fun. Apparently, only a snowflake eco-yogurt drinker would say otherwise. During last year's festival, Eclair Surf was put down following injuries in the Grand National. Eclair Surf fell at the 3rd fence. His death was the 4th at last year's Grand National Festival, following on from Solwara 1, El Est Bell, and Disco Rama. So 6 dead horses in 2 years. 7 in 2 years. Is that a lot? I mean, it's more than 0 dead horses. How many dead horses is okay for an afternoon's fun? I mean, if they all died, would that be okay too? I mean, we could make the horses disposable. You know, run them once really hard, and then it's so long, horsey. Been nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Or would that take the fun out of the day? Just asking. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Guildford. Peter.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm great, mate.
Yeah, with this privatisation, all the rest of it, in my view, as we know, in the 80s, in effect, our public utilities were stolen from us, in a way, because they paid a pittance for it.
Correct.
And I just think, I mean, it's an outrage that people, when you've got people now who can't afford to heat their homes, and they're suffering in so many ways, and then you see these big corporations making billions and billions of pounds.
Yes.
And yet, what saddens me about Labour, because I'm on the left, like, you know, Tony Benn and Corbyn and so on, is that I believe that what we need to do is to take all these things back into public ownership.
Yes.
And any profit that's made, then we've got the money then from that profit to help those people who can't pay their bills and so on and so on.
Yeah, or just to fix the infrastructure, and instead of paying shareholders, which are mostly foreign investment funds, then instead of like pouring money into the investment funds of Saudi Arabia and Norway and wherever it might be, and padding the bank accounts of the international criminal super rich, instead of doing that, actually fix the problems at the heart of the individual individual businesses that we're talking about. Water is the obvious one, but if we had kept the oil in our ownership rather than just give it away to Shell and whoever else, BP, then this would be a wealthier country. But we didn't. We just threw it away.
It's like you said, water. To get rid of, sell your own water is absolute insanity.
It is. We're the only country in the world who's done that. Just us.
What we've got to treat it as I mean, they are natural resources, these things, and that each and every one of us need, the gas, the water, and so on for our own survival.
Right.
And the idea that it goes to a group of greedy people and their shareholders, and that's the main priority. It should be taken away from them. And what saddens me, as I say, about Labour, is that they haven't got that radical edge. I mean, it's not like it's something completely new. It used to be nationalised.
That's right.
Like that guy was saying earlier.
Yep.
In Scotland, they had the sense not to privatise it. But it's a national resource. But it's so criminal to my mind that we do have these people. I mean, the inflation, they talk about, when the nurses go on strike, that's going to put up inflation.
Well, that's a lie.
To do with that.
Of course not. That's a flat-out lie. Don't believe it when they tell you that. Of course it's not going to raise inflation, because inflation is already raised and nurses haven't had a pay rise. So figure that out.
That's right. And it's the profits. It's the huge profits.
It's not wage inflation.
Inflation.
It's not wage inflation. It's profiteering. You are quite correct.
If you push up oil, gas, and all the manufacturing, all the people in homes and so on, everything goes up. Whether it's the cost of food or what manufacturing, whatever it is. So though there are certain things that I believe in a mixed economy. But there are certain things that do need to be public owned, and that's our infrastructure.
Precious resources. Yes, that's right. Now, it's too late for oil because we ain't got none no more. But we can bring back the railways. I mean, that they've been run so chaotically, badly, that they've started to do a bit of that already. But they've sort of forced into it. But that should continue. And so it should be the case for electricity and the provision of electricity and gas and certainly, absolutely and totally water. I mean, good grief.
It's unbelievable. And like you're saying, it's people in other countries that own it.
Yeah.
We don't even know who they are.
We're subsidising the good people of Norway and Saudi Arabia. They're getting their stuff for practically free because we're paying for it.
Well, when you think about it, Nick, people that on the right the racists and all the rest. Oh, there's people coming over on boats, foreigners and all the rest of it. Oh, my God.
Like that's the problem.
World's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But they don't worry about foreign investors coming over here and buying into things that we once owned and, taking the money out of the country.
Yeah,
they don't mind that kind of...
They call it inward investment, and they crow about that. When companies are from abroad are buying stuff here, they call it inward investment, and that's a good thing. Actually, it really mostly isn't, because it's other companies, other countries seeing that this country has a for sale sign up. Absolutely everything in this country is cheap.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
we are scraping along the bottom of the economies of the Western world. So we're going to have an enormous amount of stuff. What little is left that's ours is about to not become so, because we're about to sell it off on the cheap. A few people will make a vast amount of money. The rest of us, most of us, the 99.999% of us, we get nothing.
That's right. Like you so often say, and rightly say, Nick, when they privatised everything, something that we already own, right? When they privatised, what did we get out of it?
How much did you get, Peter?
A big fat zero.
Big fat
How much
zero.
did you get, Nick? I bet you got the same.
I got a big fat zero too. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Peter. I got to go. A big fat zero, Bodger.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, who's that remind you of? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Britain's Conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Side texts. I have an old phone, an old Nokia phone, and so what? I dropped it down the toilet at least 4 times and it still works. What, the toilet or the phone? Martin emails. The emails I spend all week on, you don't read out. The emails I spend 10 seconds on, you read out. Hey, Martin.
Stop whining.
And Tom says, maybe this alert system, the big alert thing that's going to come on your phone.
Warning.
Maybe this alert system is a tactic from the Tories to distract us while they give more contracts to their mates. Well, they've tried a large number of things, haven't they? They've deployed the Pretty defence. They've issued the Sewella bot.
Affirmative.
The trust distraction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're doing very well with that whole distraction engine plan. That little scheme. Let's have, let me see, who's been waiting the longest? Brighton. Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
Anthony.
Yes. Your previous caller was talking about the privatisation and how we've been robbed of our money.
Mugged.
And, mugged. I mean, one of the things he did miss out was that a lot of pension companies invest in what would be considered safe things like water, power, and all that. But
I'm not sure that that's actually true. It's a constant refrain that I hear from people defending shareholders. Hang on a minute. People who have nothing call me up and say, well, it's a politics of envy and you should, we want to support the wealth creators. Well, they don't create wealth. They just take it take it from us. And shares aren't traditionally bought by pension funds because they're too volatile. And so they tend to buy much more solid and reliable things like bonds, which are, they'll have a certain percentage which is baked in. It's the families of the super rich is who own shares.
And what I was going to say was that I would say I've grown up when we had the me generation from the 1980s, thanks to Mrs. Thatcher, where it was somehow, I'm not thanking her. That's an ironic thank.
Yeah,
not a nice
thanks
thank.
a lot, Margaret Thatcher.
But basically, where it's okay to think of yourself now and who cares about anybody else. Basically, if the 2008 banking crisis didn't wake people up to the obvious deficits of having free market politics and free market economies just all at the same time.
Well, it didn't.
Hasn't woken them up that it doesn't work because it doesn't work.
It didn't. I mean, one of the reasons that people voted Brexit was to reduce red tape. Now, what kind of red tape do you think they have in mind?
I don't know anything.
Well, it's the red tape that's holding back the financiers from screwing us over again.
No, I totally agree. But there is another side. I would say I voted Remain. I should put that out there to start with. But there is one big benefit to leaving the EU that sort of came across my mind, and it's that we don't have to adhere to the state aid and have to put things out to tender like we did before, because we're not in the EU anymore, so we don't have to obey those particular rules. We're on a different playing field.
How is that a benefit? So if a multinational corporation comes along and they say, well, we want you to build us a factory and we want you to provide all your workforce for free and we don't want to pay tax for the first 10 years, then that would be okay, because that's what you're suggesting.
No, let me get to the other half of the argument. The other part of that is that now, when we do put things out to tender, we don't have to consider it the same way as was it Buzz Aldrin saying, "I'm sat on the rocket built by the lowest tender." He was basically sat on a giant firework by the lowest tender. Now we don't have to consider that anymore, because what we can do instead is go, actually, we're not going to necessarily go for the cheapest one. We want the best one.
Right, you really think that's how this government organises its affairs? All right, okay.
No, I'm not talking about this government, obviously, because this government's a pile of dog poo, and has been for
don't sit on the fence, Anthony.
No, unfortunately, I spent virtually all bar my first 3 years of my life, unless Royal Tunbridge Wells was a Conservative seat in the late 1970s, I've basically lived in a Tory-safe seat for 45 years.
Yeah.
So it's pointless me trying to vote for anybody else.
Of course it isn't. Stop saying that.
Well, what's the point of me voting for every other... I'll say this now.
Anthony, if there's 5,000 other people like you where you live, and there must be, then of course it's worth you voting for somebody else. If you don't want a particular party to get in, then vote tactically for whichever party is most likely to challenge them.
Every other party doesn't even get their deposit
That's
back
because people like you say things like that.
If 5,000 people were to not vote Tory in my constituency and vote somebody else, it would still be Tory.
All right, so 10,000, so 20,000. Doesn't make any difference. Stop being so defeatist. You have to vote. You absolutely must do it. Stop saying you're not going to do it, because even if on the day you think, oh, well, all right, I'll do my duty and I'll go, other people that will have heard you're going on in that morose fashion will think, oh, well, that bloke on the radio said there's no point, so there's probably no point, I'm not going to bother. And if 20,000 people think like that, then we're going to be stuck forever under the same regime.
Well, Brighton isn't my constituency. I live 10 miles away from Brighton.
Right.
But no, what I said to your guy before he came on was that we've been concentrating so much on growth, money, that we've missed the biggest thing that we should be doing, which is, instead of thinking of how much money, how much growth we're trying to put into the economy, which is just going to widen the poverty gap and the gap between the super rich and the rest of us, we should be thinking more about quality of life.
Distribution, yes.
Yeah, it should be, well, we could do this and it would mean we'll get 5-10% growth, but who's that actually going to benefit? Because this is the thing the Tories keep on saying, and this is the big, I would say, not lie, but misrepresentation, that somehow growth is great for all of us, because it's not.
Of course
growth
it isn't.
Is not great
People's
for all of us.
wages have not increased since about the 1970s. They've flatlined. All of that effort that you put in, you got nothing. All of the wealth that you created, you did not share in. It went to the vanishingly few number of people at the very, very top of the pile. And there is the evidence for that is all around.
I seem to think that linking growth and I would call extreme capitalism, which is what we have in this country and we have had for the last 40 years, I would say trying to say if you have those If you don't have those, then you're not a proper democracy or something, or it is just rubbish. I'm sorry, but we should be thinking more about
happiness.
People, we should be, exactly. Because how far down the ladder have we fallen now? I mean, to Gill and for some of those other countries that we would consider developing countries, developing economies, are going to get more growth than us.
Well, we're the only country in the G20 that's actually got negative growth this year. Even Russia is doing better than us, if you can believe that. And, it probably has nothing to do with Brexit, except that it has everything to do with Brexit, because it's the only thing that differentiates us from all of those other countries. We all went through COVID.
Yeah. You see that thing about the Orient Express?
Yes.
They're not even going to bother.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I was at work this week with those guys.
We're open for business, except we've closed ourselves off from the world, and we might as well build a wall. Anthony, I've got to go, but thanks a lot, mate. Cheer up and vote. Just do it. Craig says, do you remember the time when we said if the USSR launches a strike, they said, what would you do? And most said, I would boil an egg. Most said I would boil an egg. Well, only because I suspect that they were told that they would have 4 minutes. And then they racked their brain as to what they could do with 4 minutes.
Disgusting.
And then they they dismissed that thought because they were being asked by a person with a clipboard. So they couldn't say that. So they thought, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. Oh, I know, I'll boil an egg. And then what? And then you're going to get vaporised. You won't even have time to eat that egg. Big Kev text, my daughter got a new hairdo the other day, and when my wife saw it, she said it was lovely. To which my daughter replied, yeah, I love it, but I just thought she, the hairdresser, had put a wee bit too much product on. I nearly went to the foot of my stairs when she said that.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't. That's a fact. Jonathan says you can turn off the big state siren through the phone settings. I will not let the state monitor me as if I am a peasant. I will be free, says Jonathan. He probably thinks he's a free man. He's not a number. He's a free man. No, he's a number.
And 2, 6 million.
You're number 6 million. Johnny says, did you hear about the guy that caused a social media freak out by suggesting the light at the end of the tunnel at the point of death isn't heaven? It is, in fact, the delivery room of your next birth. Wow. Mind blown. And newborns screaming blue murder as they come out into the world are actually just experiencing the moment of realization in which they lose everything that they ever were. Good one. Don't know where to go with that. I'm thinking about it. No, I'd rather not think about it. Bill says, do you have some cognitive dissonance going on? Yes, Bill. What happens between my ears is mostly sounding like this. If that's cognitive dissonance, then I've got it. He says, I can't remember how many times yesterday your glamorous assistant told you it was on the 23rd and still you're forgetting. Are you all right? No, Bill. Obviously I'm not all right. This entire show is a cry for help. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 11:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
A big sack of monkey nuts. Sue emails, I'm due to defuse an unexploded World War II bomb with a hair-trigger booby trap at precisely 3 p.m. on the 23rd of April.
Warning, warning.
It is important that I am not distracted by anything unnecessarily alarming as it may affect my composure, says Sam. Did I say Sue? Sam. Of course, Sam doesn't tell us where he is, so it's a good job that nothing alarming is going to come at precisely 3 p.m. on Saturday the 23rd. We're not expecting anything, are we? 0345 6060 973. Westminster. Well, what if you're on the air? I mean, are we gonna have to provide some sort of on-air thing? Do all radios go like in alarm mode?
I don't think so. But I don't think so. But I think the presenter's going to jump live on air.
Whoever's on the air at that time is going to have to scream. That is part of the this safety alert. Tom emails, when you say little scheme in that funny voice, are you referring to how Eric Cartman said it in an episode of South Park? Yes. Yes, I am. I still don't know why he said it in that voice. I would like to know, actually. Does anybody have any idea? Because I always assumed that they were imitating some British person, and it was Cartman who went into that voice for a brief moment there. I have no idea why he did it, but it stuck with me, and I've been saying it ever since. Little scheme. By the way, South Park, the new series of South Park's hilarious. As, by the way, is the new series of Beavis and Butthead. Some funny stuff there. I like laughing. 0345 6060 973. Westminster, Hassan.
Yeah, hi there.
Hello there.
Yeah, Nick, I wanted to talk a bit about that. We have been told that, look, privatization is the right way to go. Governments should not own utilities.
Who says that?
That's what the entire Margaret Thatcher privatization program was. Right. But then we let foreign state-owned companies buy our units. Mm-hmm. So Deutsche Bahn, which is the state-owned railway company, runs our railways for us. Yeah. EDF, the French utility, runs our utility for us. Mm-hmm. So it's an absurd form of privatization. And I think what we should be doing is we should be taking natural monopolies like water and utilities into state ownership so that they can be managed for the benefit of people.
Bingo.
And taking units into nationalization is not what Venezuela does. In November of 22, the French government took over EDF, one of the largest utilities, and took it national. So nobody said the French are communists. Nobody said that there was no run on the French exchange rate.
If it had inconvenienced French people in any way, shape or form, the whole of France would have been flipped upside down and on fire.
Yeah, and that's how they've been able to better control the inflation in their country rather than ours.
Exactly. We are subsidizing them. Our bills are paying the French for their electricity.
No, it's absurd. And one other thing, Nick, I'd love to bring to your attention is that this 21-year-old kid has unveiled a lot of interesting secrets about what's been going on about the Ukraine war.
Oh, that.
Which includes sort of that, look, the Americans, as usual, are spying on everybody.
Well, everybody spies on everybody else. We're spying on the Americans, and we're spying on the Canadians and the French, and we're probably spying on you, Hassan.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you are.
I bet there's somebody listening to this right now.
Yeah, and I've lost some emails, so I hope I can get the spying agency to find them for me.
Yeah, I think what you mean is evidence. You've lost evidence.
No, but another thing which is more scary is that literally they are saying 110,000 Ukrainians have been killed or injured in the past year, and 220,000 Russians have been killed and injured,
no doubt.
Which is a horrendous number.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I wish our government would stop encouraging people to keep on fighting, and they should come up with a genuine peace plan so that
I don't think our government has got anything to do with it one way or another. I think it's pretty much down to Vladimir rootin' tootin' shooting Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky to deal with that. Our government isn't prolonging the war. I mean, they're guilty of many things, but I don't think that's one of them. But anyway, thanks a lot, Hassan. 0345 6060 973. Paul says, with this lot, I wouldn't be surprised if ballot papers join the other stuff being dumped into the rivers. Dom email. They're not going to take losing well. I mean, I know that. They're going to take losing well as, just as much as the Republicans take losing well. They're going to do everything in their power to make that not happen. And the method by which that will happen, that they will not lose power, because there's a lot of negatives. It's getting very, very confusing now. Shall I reverse back and try it another way?
No.
I'll just carry on. The way in which they will manage to get success out of their little scheme is if people, like that bloke that I was talking to earlier on from Brighton, if they don't vote. You've got to. You have to vote. And you have to get your voter ID. They're trying to make you not vote. Now, just that alone should make you determined to vote. It would me. I've got a voter ID. And I am definitely going out and doing it. And voting as well, on the same day probably. I'll be exhausted. Dom emails, I watched Sunset Boulevard with my 83-year-old mother this evening. She was 10 when it came out. I'd never seen it before. Imagine my surprise when I heard, there was once a time in this business when I had the eyes of the whole world. Imagine my surprise when I heard, there was once a time in this business when I had the eyes of the whole world. Why is that a surprise? And there the email ends. Right. Am I missing something? Well, almost certainly, but am I missing something in that email? I'll never know. Lewisham. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Jane.
You're not making me very happy.
Why is that
these
then?
Things that
not
are happening.
HAPPY-ness over at your place. A lack of it.
We knew that Bodge was going to bodge it, but not this bad.
Wait a minute. What do you mean, not this bad?
Oh, it's terrible, terrible.
What is?
Anyway, I've got an idea. We have to vote for the suffragettes. We just must vote.
Yes.
We just must, right?
Vote for the suffragettes.
What about this coming election, we vote for the Reform Party?
No. Any further questions? No. 0345 6060 973. Howard texts, I'm classified as old at 72 years old. "72. He says, I've never voted Tory and I never will. Tory philosophy is evil. They stink. So does royalty, says Howard. Right. Well, there is an intersection of old people and the way they think about royal personages. That was a rubbish sentence and is not quite what I meant at all. But there's a Venn diagram. Old people on one side and royal people on the other. Oh, never mind. Never mind about Venn diagrams. That's arithmetic, that is. Boring. Nobody wants to hear that on a Saturday night. Young people and Ramonas are more likely to believe that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex should be invited to the King's coronation. And I know what you're thinking. Who are the Duke and Duchess? Duchess. Well, why not? The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Who are they when they're at home? Well, they're at home in California, if that's a clue. Half of 18 to 24-year-olds thought that Harry and Meghan, out of Hazard and Sparkles, should come to the event, the King's sparkly hat dance. They should come to that event on May the 6th. Half of 18 to 24-year-olds. 56% of 25 to 49-year-olds think that Hazard and Sparkles should come. However, when you get over 65, they don't think that at all. Only 34% of over 65s agreed that Hazard and Sparkles should be at the event. Young people, yes. Old people...
No.
Between Leavers and Ramonas, 60% of Remainers wanted to see the couple invited. 34% of Leavers thought they should be. But, of course, Leavers and old people are the same group. It's old people that are the problem. I think that as soon as old people reach the age of, I don't know, should we say 60? That's it, time's up, say goodbye, Grandad.
Bye-bye.
Labour voters were far more likely to support the couple, Hazard and Sparkles. 66% of Labour voters say that they should attend. 33% of Tory voters say they should attend. Of course, Tory voters and old people is also the same group. Polling for the Times has shown that Tory voters are more likely to support Randy Andy. You believe that? The Duke of York. Tory voters want the Duke of York to go to the sparkly hat dance, but they don't want Meghan and Sparkles to go. They want to see the Duke of York there.
What?
Tory voters do, and old people, and leavers. I can't believe it. I mean, this country has divided down the middle. On one side, they're getting absolutely everything wrong. I mean, they've really picked their team, haven't they? Old Conservative people. They want Andrew there, but they don't want Harry and Meghan there because, you know, they're beyond the pale. 45% of those who voted Conservative at the last election think that Andrew should attend. Older Britons were more opinionated than the young. 48% of over 65s said that they wanted Harry and Meghan to stay at home. We don't want them around here. Like that, they said it. It's exactly what they sounded like. 48% of over 65 said they want Harry and Meghan at home, compared with 10% of 18 to 24-year-olds. 18 to 24-year-olds, open, open-hearted. Absolutely riven with hate. The old, which seems to increase by the amount of time they've been on Earth, apparently. The polling also found most British people are not interested in the coronation. Just don't care. Most. 35% said they do not care very much about the historic event. Only 29%, and 29% said they don't care at all. So add those two together, 35 and 29. 35 plus 29, well, that's just mental arithmetic, so that's easy. Any fool could do this. 35 plus 29 is like 78. 78% said they couldn't care less about the royal coronation. Only 9% said they cared a great deal. But regardless of their opinions, they said they're going to watch it on TV anyway. About half. Well, we're paying for it. Might as well watch it, eh? It's going to be dead boring. You know it will. The ceremony, during which Sir Charles will be officially crowned king, he gets to wear his mum's hat. It's due to take place on May the 6th at Westminster Abbey. People are, beating the stink out of their finery as I speak. But most of us couldn't care less. Your Majesty, don't care. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
What in blazes goes on inside that head of yours?
Well, not much, as it happens. Dave says, I think that when Charlie and the gang order their lavish dinner at the inn, instead of the usual Coronation chicken, they should give them a Coronation Street hot pot. Oh, blimey. A listener with material. Steve says, Keir Starmer's blunders are paving the way for an unprecedented fifth Tory win. Well, there is some suggestion that that is what we're sliding towards. Well, I think that perhaps some who are supporters of the government would like that message to get out, that things aren't as bad for the Conservatives as people are painting, and actually they might actually squeak a win. I'm reading that quite a lot lately, where the polling doesn't suggest that that's actually true, but if they keep saying it over and over again, people might think, oh, well, it's not that bad. Leave them alone. They're doing their best. The Times had a big thing on this today. With local elections less than 3 weeks away, and Fishy Sunak and Skier are stepping up the drumbeat of campaigning, the issue that is obsessing strategists on both sides is the large number of voters who identify as undecided, the ones who say, no idea. Polling for the Times shows that almost a third of all voters either don't know how they will cast their ballot or say they won't vote at all.
What?
Oh, my God. It shows that if an election were held tomorrow and the option were available, don't know would be the UK's third largest party, with 16% of the vote. How can you not know? Come on. On the positive side for the Tories, it says, at the moment, the people who don't know, those who haven't thought about it, they seem to be leaning towards Fishy Sunak. Asked who would make the best Prime Minister, YouGov analysis shows that 21% say Sunak, 8% say Starmer. Why? Apart from Sunak is actually doing that job at the moment. I mean, there's a bias towards those that are in a position of power. I get that as a general concept, but I don't get it in this particular instance. I mean, what is it that Fishy Sunak has done so far that pleases you so? I mean, is it that he's just not Liz Truss?
Absolutely.
Undecideds are almost 4 times more likely to trust Sunak and the Conservatives to handle the economy. Based on what? Their ability with the numbers?
86%, 5 million, and of course, over 50%. And
Undecideds are 4 times more likely to trust Fishy Sunak and the Conservatives to handle the economy than they are to trust Labour. Oh my God. Among undecided voters and what they describe as soft Labour supporters, Sunak significantly outpolls Starmer on who would make the best Prime Minister. Based on what? They put the percentage of the electorate which is up for grabs between 30 and 40%. They hope that as the general election gets closer, this group will ultimately end up backing the Tories because of Sunak. The billionaire who's just built his own pool. That guy. Built his own pool while the local ones shut down for lack of money. That chap. The Tory campaigner who said that added that there appeared to be no personal vote for the Labour leader whatsoever. Unlike Sunak, he's polling exactly where Labour is. To win a majority next year, they need not to just hold on to a large proportion of their 2019 voters, but also hope that many Labour supporters who stayed away from the voting booths while the party was led by Jeremy Corbyn don't come back. And that's where this voter ID thing comes in. Bingo. I want to make absolutely sure as few people as possible who are not going to vote Conservative actually can be bothered to vote. Bodger Johnson's landslide win was not based on a huge surge of new Tory voters. The landslide win was based on Labour voters staying at home. So I doubled down with my tirade against that chap who called from Brighton, who said that he wasn't going to vote. And somebody else who called in and said that their daughter-in-law said that she wasn't going to vote because they're all the same, and what's the point, you're all lying. God. That's how they win, because Labour voters don't go out. Johnson apparently only attracted 360,000 new Tory voters in the December 2019 election win, while Labour's vote dropped by 2.6 million. 360,000 new Tory voters, 2.6 million Labour voters just didn't vote. Couldn't be bothered. It's unbelievable. The Times says the election, as ever, will be fought in the battleground of the economy. Labour will press its case that the Tories have wrecked the economy and that after a decade of austerity and stagnation, they can no longer be trusted. And apparently, a majority of the people who are undecided, who have lived through the last 13 years of austerity, and during which time I think the nation's debt has gone from something like 500 billion to 2 trillion. And tens of billions of pounds have just disappeared into the pockets of people who also, in many cases, coincidentally, donate money to the Conservative Party. That's just, a coincidence, I'm sure. They've lived through all of that, and they still think that the Conservatives are the best bet for the economy. Have these people lost their minds? Sunak will pin his hopes on people starting to feel better off, with inflation expected to fall to about 2% by the end of the year, and wages rising more significantly. Well, not if he's got anything to do with it, they won't. And inflation's going to fall. Of course, they will take the credit for it, but it's going to fall regardless. Because inflation is up because, the price of fuel has gone up because rootin' tootin' shootin' Putin, his escapade in Ukraine and the COVID pandemic is still sort of running through the system. So it will ease of its own accord, but the Tories will take the credit for it anyway. You know they will. And then, of course, there's the unfunded tax cuts just before the general election, which they've already said out loud, saying the quiet part out loud. You know they're going to do that. It's a bribe. The YouGov polling shows that among undecided voters, Labour outpolls the Tories significantly on issues such as crime and the NHS. 44% think Starmer would do a better job tackling waiting times compared with 11% who back Sunak. On crime, 10% of voters trust Sunak to deal with the issue, but they're still inclined to trust him on the economy. And it's all about the money, honey. That's how people vote. Never mind about waiting times on the NHS or any of that stuff. People vote about the money. How much money am I going to get? They should be thinking about happiness. Because on your deathbed, you will not be thinking, gosh, I wish I'd earned another £100. Will you? You'll be thinking, I wish I'd spent more time happy. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
What's he got to be depressed about?
Oh, where do I even begin? 0345 6060 973. Wendy says, at what age is one officially considered old, please? I'm in my mid-60s. Should I live in daily fear of being overcome by an urge to vote for the Tories? Fortunately, it's not happened yet, says Wendy. Oh, it will, Wendy. It will. Johnny says, not my king pork sausage fingers. Maybe you should do that, what the Queen used to do, and wear gloves. Better. Dave says, you're old, so stop whinging. Wow. You are old, so stop whinging about old voters. I love Hazza and Meg, says Dave. Islington. Hello, Adam.
Hi. Everybody loves, all people of colour love Mick and Harry.
Right.
Mick, it's,
do they?
Before,
Is that true? Is that an actual fact, though?
I don't know.
Or people of colour? Well, what kind of colours are we talking about? Because white's a colour. Pink's a colour.
British, black and Asians, everyone I know who's black and Asian love Harry and Meghan.
Everyone you know thinks just like you. I get it.
Before I make my main point...
what was that?
Nick, can you hear me?
What was that?
What?
Was that down your phone, or was that somebody coming into this room? That was really alarming.
Plans for 14
new
smart...
Oh, right. It's because I left his thing up. Right. Carry on, Adam. My fault entirely.
Well, I don't know where to start, but it's...
Start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Well, I actually prayed for you. You know, it's Ramadan, and I prayed for your good health because I think you've got a good moral compass, and it leads me on to what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
So about half an hour ago when I left about an hour ago when I left the mosque, I heard I put on the radio on my headphones, and I heard you speak to someone about regulations and this government and what they're doing. And what I can say to you is, I don't know if you've come across the SMCR. It's a senior manager and certification regime. I work in corporate banking within regulation.
Corporate banking?
Yeah. So
you should have been praying for your own moral compass. Don't mind about me.
So I work in that field within the spectrum of regulation, legal and compliance.
Right, trying to get around all the regulations. I understand. Go on.
So check this out. The government is now looking to scrap the senior manager and certification regime, and what that aims to do is reduce harm to consumers, and it's meant to increase integrity in the markets and hold senior people accountable.
Well, I know who's got a lot of integrity.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
Every level, you can rest assured.
And do you know what happened? 3 months ago, I did some investigation into this, and it looks like the banking sector was actually pressing the government, saying, can you loosen this up because it will make talent acquisitions quicker. And guess what? Last month, the government started...
Talent.
By the way, this isn't my view. I'm kind of relaying...
Right. But what is it that you're saying is going?
It's not that it's going yet, but the government's looking... is potentially looking to get rid of the SMCR.
And what is that?
So it's a certification that looks to reduce harm on consumers.
What's a certification?
So basically, anybody in senior management positions within the banking sector can be held accountable.
Oh, right.
Right.
Okay.
And the government is now, check this out. They've now made a formal request to look into whether or not to get rid of it.
Oh, they will.
I'm against that.
They will definitely get rid of that. You mean people at the head of banks actually being held responsible for what their banks do?
Yes, but not even heads, mid-level as well.
Right.
And I really believe in ethical banking. I am a capitalist, but I believe in doing things properly and you know...
I think that's just you then. In the banking racket, that'll just be you then.
Perhaps. No, there are good people in that sector. They really are. Mm-hmm. So, but what's concerning for me is they're presenting it. I'm not anti-conservative. I'm anti-this conservative.
Right.
I cannot stand anyone post-Cameron. I think they're disgusting. I miss people like Justine Greenan and Anna Soubry. I think these were bright Tory women, right? But Boris, Theresa May.
Well, they don't seem to be like... Well, I don't know about Theresa May. I'm not sure she actually fits this bill, but...
That's true, actually. Not as bad.
Right.
But what's the other nutcase? Liz Truss.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Liz Truss.
This pack of wolves, they are just not bright people. And my concern is if they get rid of these regulatory measures, right... What's going to happen is we're going to have more charlatans and fraudsters coming into the city.
Because the thing is, I mean, people say that, the banks, they didn't learn their lesson from the deregulation and the sort of bonfire of rules that happened in the Big Bang and the 2007-8 financial crash, which we still haven't got out from underneath. We're still trying to dig ourselves out of that hole. That'll cost us for the rest of our lives. We'll never get those years back. And they say, well, they haven't learned their lesson. They have learned their lesson. The lesson is they can do anything they like and get away with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, I'm a capitalist and I agree with you.
Right. Well, I think you'll be looking for a new place of employment come Monday. Got anything in mind? Can you play music?
I'm planning to go back into journalism, but genuinely the reason why I'm in this sector is because it pays well and it gives me a good financial security in my life.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people, why they go into that. But that's
the only reason you would go into that. I mean, why else would you go and do money for a living? In order, if you made bread for a living, you'd come home covered in flour. But because you do money for a living, you come home covered in money.
The other thing I wanted to say Something else. Do you know that there's been a lot of evidence citing there are more people out of employment by choice now? Do you know what I think, Nick?
Well, people during COVID, they saw a better world where they didn't have to get up at 6:30 in the morning and squeeze into a train that cost them $5,000 a year that they couldn't get a seat on, and they show up for a job that they hate, doing something that they dislike all day long for somebody who doesn't appreciate them. They thought, well, the hell with that. I'll sit at home in the garden.
No, well, there is that is true. But from my research, given quite anecdotal, more and more people are saying that they're feeling outskilled, that the way technology and disruptive IT technology is going, people are struggling to actually keep up with what work is requiring of them. Yeah. Of course, I don't mean that about manual kind of work, but...
with ChatGPT, what work will require of them is to take their things and leave the building.
Affirmative.
Yeah, you're fired. Adam, gotta go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Dave texts, you are old, so stop whinging about old voters. Oh, no, I've read that. I still haven't recovered. Old? Paul says, it's not so much another party getting into government that has the Tories worried, it's another party getting into government and having an audit. An audit. Yeah. No one's going to get taken to task for what it is that they've done over the last 13 years. They just won't. You know that that's true. They're just going to get away with it. They're not going to jail. They're going to the House of Lords. Let's have Staines. Gary.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Gary.
Thank you. Yeah, your previous sessions about the competition between Tories and other parties is a segue to what I'm going to ask you, and that is, when it comes to the party political broadcast season in the autumn, would it be a great idea to have a bunch of trusted and journalists that have integrity to come along and do another broadcast to actually lay out the truth and the ground rules for where we are?
Fact-checking, is that what you mean?
Fact-checking and actually saying how people could do the right thing, like you've said about the ID voting, and come along with a panel like yourself, James O'Brien, Piers Morgan, should I say his name, Andrew Neil, people from The Guardian, and those people that are real truth givers and are able to say what is really going on and give people the courage to vote in the right way, because I think there's going to be a change of government, but it needs something other than the Labour Party and dear old Keir to say what we need to do. And Keir could be a good leader because I think he's genuine, he's honest, but we need to give him a leg up. And it's people like yourself and others in the journalist world that are trusted.
Well, I'm not a journalist, and you shouldn't trust me. But apart from that...
Yeah, well, I do trust you, and you're a presenter or a journalist or however you wish to describe
talk show host. Talk show host. Don't trust talk show hosts.
No, we do that. That's the thing. People do trust you, and people do trust David Lammy and James O'Brien.
Yeah, you trust those people, but not me.
No,
I'm just a dope who plays cow noises on the radio.
And thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that. The entertainment value is fantastic, and but just that's an idea. Let's have a panel of really clever, intellectual truth sayers.
Truthists.
Get together. Truthists.
Well, there's the Full Fact organisation, which I would put faith in, and just read a broad cross-section of opinions from the right and the left, and the truth of it will be whatever chimes most with you, with the majority of the people. Just don't read one thing. Don't read just the Mail, for instance, or the Telegraph.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that sort of body of trusted agents, whether they're talk show hosts, journalists, presenters, or whatever, that get together, and we all want to listen to what they have to say because they've got nothing else to gain but by telling the story as it is. There's nothing else to gain, and that would be the body that people could trust.
Yeah, what's infuriating is listening to politicians being interviewed, watching them on TV or listening to them on the radio, and they will say, they just pull stuff out the air, and you know that it's not true, but you don't have the corresponding information to refute what they've just said. They'll say 87% of the people in this country are now waiting 64% less for their operations on the NHS than they were under the previous Labour government. And you'll receive that information, and you can't say, no, that's not true, because you don't have the specific statistics to disprove it. You're going to have to go away and look it up. But meanwhile, they've just said it, it's live, it's out there. And regardless of whether you correct it later, that's irrelevant, because people have heard it, and they've taken it in. And it becomes the truth, even though it isn't. And there's one individual that is absolutely superb at telling lies, and it's this bloke.
Everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper.
And the grasshopper to his karate instructor is this guy.
Yeah. Wait.
I mean, they both spout lies like water out of a garden hose. And you can't dispute it in real time because you don't have the information to hand that refutes what it is that they've just said. So the interviewer will just nod and think, yeah, okay, and then they get away with it. The time's up and they leave. And what they've left is this pool of misinformation.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And what's worse is that at the time they say it, there is that minority of people that absolutely suck it up and believe what they say.
Yes, but that's true. But the rest of the people, they might not believe it, but they've heard it and it's gone in. And then once it's in and it's been rolling around their brain for a while, they forget who said it. It just becomes a fact.
So the antidote is for a panel of integral people like yourself and the other people I've mentioned that come along.
Yeah, none of the people that you've mentioned, because they're all everybody can say, well, he's right wing and he's left wing, and so you don't want any of that. You want somebody who is like straight down the middle, who's going to just look at the facts, like this full fact organization. I'm sure there's other people that would do just the same thing. In America, the Washington Post does very good work on working through what politicians say and then awarding them Pinocchio points, depending on how much of a lie it actually is. Of course, Donald Trump, he was awarded maximum Pinocchio points almost all of the time.
It's better than Family Guy and some of these other programs that they push out.
Right.
But anyway, that's my call. And,
okay.
I think there's a good panel that could be heard by a lot of people that tune into all of you guys.
There should definitely be some sort of fact-checking organisation that works in real time to dispute what it is that these lying liars are lying about. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Gary. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Right, so what are we doing?
Gibbon, we are doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which the delightful Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. I've just edited the one that's coming out on Monday. They come out every Monday. If you have an hour in which you wish to be amused, it'll be right up your alley. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol is what it's called. Now, If you want us to solve your problem, then you must send it to the following address: nickandcarol@global.com. nickandcarol@global.com, and gird yourself for a certain amount of satisfaction. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? Bournemouth. Hello, Noel.
Yeah, hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Well, I'm actually not in Bournemouth. I'm in Washington, D.C.
Ah.
Slight difference.
A little bit, yeah. Only a matter of 3,000 short miles.
Just a little bit, but I was listening to earlier talking about voting. I live over here now, but I'm still British. I work here, but I'm not a US citizen. So I wasn't allowed to vote in your Brexit election, and because I'm not a US citizen here, I can't vote here either.
Huh. So nothing that's happening is your fault.
I take no responsibility for whatever the side does.
Good to know. Why weren't you allowed to vote here?
Because I wanted to, but I was told because I wasn't resident in the UK, the vote over there, not like a general election, was only valid for people living in the country at the time.
Huh.
And because I was told I wasn't allowed to.
Right.
But I'm still British. I have a British passport. My plan was to move back to the UK, but at the moment, sounding how things are over there, and pulling out of Europe,
yes.
I'm quite not sure if I want to do that anymore.
Well, if you are considering at some point moving back to the UK, I'd do it straight away while it's still here.
One thing I think they should do, though, seriously, I do think they should have a member of Parliament representing all the British people who actually live outside of the country but are still British citizens.
Yes, those who have patriotically left the country for the benefit of themselves. Thanks a lot, mate. I mean, if you just stuck around, this country might have actually gone somewhere. We could have been somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, we could. But no, it was that whole Brexit stuff cheesed an awful lot of us off that were British but had no say in it.
Yeah. So you departed for the lure of filthy foreign lucre.
Well, actually, no, because I moved over here still working for the British company.
Oh, right.
That's the reason I moved over here, because the business was expanding, and they asked me if I'd come over here to run the business over here, which I did. But
that's what they told you. They said,
that's what I was told.
Well, how can we get Noel out of the office? Well, let's tell him that the business is expanding, and we'll send him to the farthest reaches that are available to us.
Yeah, well, that bit works.
What's life like in Washington, D.C.? That must be a weird place to live.
I'm just outside of D.C. in North Virginia, but it's literally less than a 25-minute drive into the centre of D.C. I love it. I mean, the countryside is beautiful. I've spent my first 10 years living over here in California, which I really didn't like very much.
Whereabout?
I was in Orange County.
And what didn't you like about that? Sounds lovely. Orange County. Doesn't that sound nice?
The weather was perfect. The beach was perfect, but everything was driven by pure unadulterated greed.
Yeah.
For the size and purpose of your house, the amount of food you can put on your plate, the sort of car, and everybody seemed, at least from my experience, everybody measured themselves by how much they could try and convince everybody else they had.
Yes. Whereas in this country, people measure themselves by where their family came from and which school they went to and how they speak and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, I'd agree with that. The people I feel really sorry for, though, for the kids that grow up there, in California at least, that think that's normal.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Well, what's normal there is going to school and not actually knowing whether you're going to be able to come back or not. That's what's normal there. That's really bizarre.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is really, really sad. This is horrible. This actually happened last week. A good friend of my daughter...
Now, you're not going to tell us a sad story now, are you?
Well, unless you want me to, but...
No, I don't. I don't want you to. Most definitely not. But I send my commiserate thoughts and prayers, Noel. But it's too early to talk about gun control. You do know that, don't you? Always, yeah. No, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. I think I saved us from some bad news there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss P texts, I'm 79 years old and have never, never, never voted Tory. And I never, 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 ever will. Why do people assume that so-called old people vote Tory? Some might, but never, ever me or my friends, always Labour. What a dump this country is becoming, says Miss P. I think that the lady doth protest too much. I mean, how many times can you say never, ever, ever, ever? Oh, me? Oh, not me. I suspect that she is trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Guilty! I'm not saying all old people vote Conservative. It's just that if you are old, if you're over, let's say, 60, then it is much more likely than not that you will vote Conservative, much more likely than not that you voted Brexit, and much more likely than not that you don't want Hazard and Sparkles at the King's Spangly Hat dance. I'm not saying that everybody over the age of 60, but the vast majority, just like the vast majority of young people would vote Labour, would have, if they could have done, but they were denied the vote for something that was going to affect them longer than anybody else. If they had been able to vote, they would have voted to stay in the European Union, and they would want Hazard and Sparkles at the King's Spangly Hat dance. Old people, completely the opposite. Now, I wonder what the young people now are going to be like when they get old. Because I'm not sure that the old people today have gone through anything that's particularly unusual that makes them feel that way, you know, just riven with hatred for everything. That's not... I exaggerate for comic effect. But... I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out when we get there. If we get there. Fingers crossed. 0345 6060 973. It's 12:30 on LBC, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. Text and emails. Let's see. Sylvia says, got poll card in post this morning. It's an A4 piece of paper, not a plastic laminated card. I have to fold it origami style to get into my purse. Really? Well, that's a surprise. So when you go for your voter ID card, what you get in the post is not a card. I wonder if part of their little scheme is that when you go to the voting booth, they say, oh, well, you've got a piece of A4 paper. No, that's no good. No, you need a card. Sue says, in last night's show, you were talking about the upcoming national test of the UK Emergency Alerts Service to take place on Sunday, the 23rd of April. This brought to mind the false alarm that happened in Hawaii in 2018. I can't imagine the utter pandemonium on that day, followed by the sheer blessed relief. And here is that story. The message came... The message came in, let's see, when was this? January the 14th, 2018. Imagine this coming up on your phone. This is what it said.
Warning, warning.
It said, emergency alert. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Wow. But it was a drill. Or it was a mistake, an error. It's all in capital letters as well, like they're shouting at you. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Joe says, it's not Labour that's the problem, it's the Labour leader. Do you know why, says the man from next door. Why?
It says further down the article that they apologised and said it was caused by an employee pressing the wrong button.
The wrong button.
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if Vladimir Putin pushes the wrong button, it's good night to everyone. Babs texts, overheard in my gym today, Boris Johnson is the best Prime Minister we have had since Winston Churchill. In 100 years, we'll look back and realise that is true. There is no hope, says Babs. That is correct, Babs. There is no hope. Best Prime Minister since Churchill. What do you think, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment on that. Blah, blah, blah. Is he in jail yet?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
At all times. James emails, I have several older family members who don't have a valid voter ID and can't be bothered to register for one. However, they would normally vote Tory, so I haven't offered to help sort it out for them. Maybe the idea will backfire for the government, as older people can't be bothered with the faff of the internet. And Paul says, the coast of Norfolk has no sewage dumped into it near Sandringham. So we need more monarchs with estates on the coast. You know what? Without checking that that's true or not, I've decided to believe it. Yeah, I bet they haven't poured any sewage near Sandringham for their royal majesties. I bet they bloomin' haven't. Bust a gut to avoid doing that, I bet they have. Stanwell, Michael.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good stuff. Look, if the government was really serious, they would sort of put swab tests on members of Parliament to see if they've been taking drugs, because with the ID cards and whatever else, I think you seriously have to be on drugs when there's been no evidence of any fraud whatsoever.
Well, you'd have to be on drugs if that was your reason for actually instigating this process. But that's not the reason. The reason is for voter suppression. It's just as simple as that.
No, indeed. But, when we look at the evidence that, we've had journalists in and with the swabs in the Commons, and it's all, been found to be that, most of the toilets have cocaine in them. Mm-hmm. We really, why aren't people concentrating on the fact that we've got, MPs that are making up decisions and voting?
Who are out of their mind. Yeah, exactly.
And look, the other thing is, Nick, look, the thing is for Keir Starmer not to be calling out the COVID contracts and the corruption involved and demanded there to be an investigation.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe that is part of the next tranche of Labour adverts. Who knows? Yeah, look, it blooming well should be.
Yeah, but the thing is, Nick, if we think that, okay, we'll vote for him hoping that he's going to call this out, and he doesn't because he's a sir and he's part of the establishment, then it's too late. Then what happens, Nick?
Nothing is going to happen at all, Michael. Nothing that has been done to this country is going to be investigated in any way, shape or form beyond the usual thing that they will have an investigation that costs £50 million and lasts for 5 years, and they will conclude that lessons must be learned, and that will be the end of it.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like that, Nick, does it? We can get an independent. We could get the Good Law Project actually to look at all the bank statements and forensically go through them.
Michael, the government will spend every penny of ours to defend themselves against us. They've got our money and they can use it as a weapon against us. It's not going to happen.
No, but what I'm saying is, like Jeremy Corbyn, the reason he was smeared is because he was the only one that was actually prepared to go against the establishment and said, we want to change this. We don't need corruption. We want everything to be clear. And the establishment saw that.
Correct.
And got very, very scared.
Yeah, okay? and then they levelled their guns at him and they pounded away until they blasted him, out of existence, pretty much.
Well, they disenfranchised him from actually taking part in an election. In the local elections, he can't even,
Well, he can stand as an independent.
No, yeah, as an independent, but the Labour Party is what he's always stood for.
Mm-hmm.
He was the votes that he got. He was at festivals, and all of the ravers were shouting his name.
Well, they weren't ravers; they were ordinary middle-class kids.
No, but what I'm saying is, could you imagine Keir Starmer?
No, I couldn't.
No. And this is what I'm saying. Keir Starmer isn't for the people. He is the absolute opposite of what the people...
Right, but what you must remember, Michael, is that is the choice that we have at the moment, so pick one. You can wait until the perfect candidate comes along and from now until the end of time. That's not going to happen. Small increments in the right direction. Now, I'm not going to tell you which way to vote, but just pick the least bad option. Thanks, Michael. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Jack says, what are your thoughts on the Grand National and those who attempted to glue themselves to the hurdles? Well, I don't know. I think that glue is always a bad idea. I mean, it says right there on the directions, don't get this on your skin. And they're pouring it all over their face and sticking their face to the road or a horse or whatever it might be. And I've done that in detail, the national race thing, Grand National. I did it at the beginning of the show, pretty much. So if you missed it, then listen to this show on the podcast. The magic phrase, if you've got Global Player, on one of your stupid smart speakers, is play Nick Abbott, the whole show podcast. Or if you've got Global Player, then you can just look it up. Look that up. Not catch up, that's different. It's confusing. But the podcast, we take most of the ads in the news out. Takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity. And with the money you save, you still won't be able to pay your bill at the supermarket at the end of the week. But, every little helps. Nick Abbott, the whole show podcast. Let's see now, who's been waiting the longest? New Malden, Ahmed.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Ahmed.
Yes. I find it shocking that despite the fact with the cost of living crisis being faced by everybody, it seems the country is still asleep. I think President Biden, he had the right idea when he landed at Belfast Airport, and Rishi Sunak tried to greet him, and he brushed him aside. Did anyone know?
He probably didn't see him.
Well, I mean, that's, I don't know whether it was his memory loss or Rishi Sunak's schoolboy demeanour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible.
Probably thought he was just some child, offering flowers like they often do to foreign leaders when they come to these shores.
But what is it with us? Why aren't we, taking a stand against this third-tier lot at 10 Downing Street?
Well, because we're not able to make a stand at the moment. We will be able to make a stand if we're allowed to have another general election, and I still maintain that is not a given.
We had 3 prime ministers in 1 year.
Yeah.
One, they were all bad at each other.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And now we got this guy. He's just running because there's nobody else left, I suppose, capable enough.
Who can actually string a sentence together in front of a camera, and who can wear a skinny tie just the way he does. Yeah, but he's gripping. He's taking a hold of the situation.
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping it.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's subsidizing so heavily all these energy companies and so on, instead of taking a stand against them.
Yeah, he ain't. We are. Us poor dopes who pay taxes.
Are paying for it.
He ain't paying nothing at all.
Yeah, but all the money is going to the shareholders and all these chief executives and so on, CEOs.
Right, well, the big money is going to the people who own all the shares, and the people who own all the shares are probably the Saudi Wealth Fund and the Norwegian Wealth Fund and and a handful of the world's richest families.
Yeah, they own all our utilities all around the country.
Yeah.
What is happening? Why are we still asleep? Why are we letting this happen?
Exactly. Hey, wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Thanks a lot, Ahmed. 0345 6060 973. David says, as George Monbiot said, The only secure leak-free pipeline at the Thames Water is the one linking the company profits to the shareholders. No leaks in that pipeline. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbot. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
0345 6060 973. Harrow. Jonathan in Harrow.
Yeah, hello, Nick. Hi.
Yes, Jonathan.
Yeah. So you got a good vibe going on the show. I don't want to destroy it.
I've got a good vibe going on. You betcha.
But I had a few not depressing, but controversial points to make.
Uh-oh.
So when I was talking to your new boy, listen to me. Before that, I listened to your news where they said that Rishi is going to stop these new highways.
Who?
Rishi Sunak is stopping the
Fishy
new
Sunak,
highways.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because the kiddies in this country are doing all of the subjects like the sociology, the gender studies, talking about their pronouns. They're not doing the engineering. So we do not have the engineers and the people who are needed to do the highways. That was point one.
Wait a minute. What is doing the wokey-cokey got to do with the highways?
Because they're not doing, you need to always wait a minute, the neighbor's knocking again. Wait a minute. The problem is, just wait a minute. The problem is, if you're not doing the proper...
Don't upset the neighbours. Shh.
Yeah, it's quite big. The problem is if you're not doing the proper... listen to the proper mathematical subject. They want to do the easy subject, like the feminist studies, the gender studies, and they don't. I'm not an
studying
anti-woman.
what's on TV tonight. Those kind of subjects. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not anti-woman. But the point is, they're not doing the engineering. They're not doing the engineering, the mathematics, and all of things.
Nothing good could ever come from a sentence that starts, "I'm not anti-woman, but."
And a few other points quickly, if I can.
Oh
no.
Did he say that?
Possibly.
The accent's so strong that. And it was so surprising that he would say that, because I've spoken to him before, that I didn't catch it the first time, but I suspect that because we've got 8 seconds, and the moment that he said it, my mind went, "Warning, warning." Did he actually say that? And then he said it again, and at that point I thought, okay, I really actually did hear that, and then I got rid of him. So, if the first one got out, then I apologise.
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I am sorry.
Yeah, but it wasn't my fault. This show was like this when I got here. Now, I know that if it was this time on television, then it would be virtually the law that every programme has to include that word at least once on TV. But the rule is you can see somebody say it, but you can't just hear somebody say it, because that's worse? I don't know. I've got no idea. But them's the rules, Jack. And that's a fact. Rona texts, Thames Water can do one. There is one of their manholes in my garden. Last autumn it overflowed. Sewage and unmentionable stuff all over the place.
Disgusting.
It almost reached the stream at the bottom of my garden, says Rona. Last week they refused me any compensation. Apparently, quotes, it didn't meet all of their criteria. And they have the nerve to charge me £70 a month water rates. I'm contemplating writing to my MP, but he's a Tory, so...
Oh, no.
Martin says, every year since 1983, sewage flooded our garden. It only took them 35 years to unblock the blockage. 35 years. Wow. Let's see. Hang on a minute. Who am I going to take? Hang on. The Wirral. Hello, Nora.
Hiya, Nick.
Nora.
Oh, I'm flattered. I didn't think you were going to fit me in.
I was going to talk about test and trace and how I think that's big data. No. But I've got a funny story that was on. It was actually on another program on LBC.
Right.
About following on from the surge thing. A guy who's got a septic tank, and he pays £200 for it when it's full for a farmer to come and take it away.
Ew.
And he takes it to the processing plant. He empties it, takes it to the processing plant, which you can see from his house.
Yeah.
They process it.
Can he smell it from his house?
No, but he can see this. But when the next day, he sees it floating past his house in the river that runs past his house.
Oh, what?
So he just pays £200, and he could just directly empty it himself into the river. But they pay, and he did that. You get fined. But
exactly. You can't cut out the middleman. No, it has to all be done legal, decent, honest, and true. If they're gonna pour it into our waterways, then it must be a registered supplier. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, that just followed on rather neatly from the previous one. I'll leave the test and trace thing for another day.
Okay.
All right.
That's very cooperative of you. And I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nora. Can't get into that right now. It's only a couple of minutes to go. Let's see. What are we going to get now? Let's go for Notting Hill. Hello, Ash.
Hello.
Ash.
Yes. Am I going to be the last for tonight?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Okay. Yes. I always listen to your show. It's so late. Not just because I found it funny, first of all, but I found you very intelligent. Believe me or not.
Okay, not.
No. As in, I get really serious points from your words, even when you play funny stuff.
Right.
But anyway, manipulation of the news. This is stuff we say is just like we got nothing to entertain each other, and then we just talk about this stuff. You got to see Iran in Europe. Revolutions happening. How manipulate this stuff? Russia.
I can't really understand what it is you're saying, Ash. I'm not really following what you're saying.
I'm saying.
Are you driving right now?
No. I was sitting in the car.
Okay,
for 36
then.
minutes waiting for you,
Right.
and then I just got out, and then you just called me. I didn't want to miss the opportunity, but it's just like when we talk about a manipulation of media or government, this is just like a game of just like a little I don't know. It's not serious. The serious stuff is going on somewhere, and even affecting the U.S. media is like for example, I'll just give you an example of there was 1,500 recorded people being arrested in.
Okay, Ash, whatever it is that you called up to tell us, this is not the time. You can't introduce a topic like people getting arrested in Iran or wherever it is that you're talking about at 3 minutes to the end of the show. Can't do it. God, we were going along just fine before that bloke decided to swear his face off with which was received with much surprise. And then this entire show has been sort of falling towards the end. I blame you.
There's nothing to do with me.
Guilty. I don't know. It sounded pretty guilty to me. I think he protests too much. Right. Texts and emails. Richard said it was disgusting watching the Grand National today. Screens were surrounding one of the fences while a horse was being destroyed. The race continued by running around the fence. All of the horses probably knew what was happening and just wanted to get away. But unfortunately, they just the road that they were on kept going around and around and around. Back around to where it was happening.
Oh, no.
Poor horses. Anyway, I've dealt with this at length right at the beginning of the show. Andy says, and you may or may not agree with this, I don't know. Of course I don't know. He says there is one enormous benefit to Brexit. Nigel Farage has disappeared. Yeah. I guess that's so, yeah. He's just gone. If only I had a recording of Nigel... Oh, no, I played that yesterday. I can't do that again today. Can't play it twice in the same weekend. I'll play it next weekend, if you really, really want me to. And finally, Jeremy texts, is it right that 18,000 cows blew up in America? Why is that not headline news? Well, it's true. I mean, it sounds like the punchline to a joke, but 18,000 cows blew up in America, and there's nothing funny about it. Unless it amuses you. Right, I'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight. If you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back. It's available as a podcast. Nick Abbot, The Whole Show podcast, exclusive to Global Player. Now, if you get Global Player, you can rewind live radio, catch up on all of LBC's shows, and stay up to date with the latest news from LBC. Rewind live radio. It's like a magic trick on Global Player, and you can get Global Player from your App Store or globalplayer.com. Back tonight at 10. Coming up at 4, it's Marina Perkis. Now, Clive Ball. It's 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 now,